Well, 5 years ago today marked the beginning of the end for Pillowtex, an end that would lead to the largest single layoff in North Carolina history. It was on this day in 2003 that the company said it couldn't pay back its loans or its creditors and announced that it would simply go out of business. People had been praying outside Plant 1 in Kannapolis for days, but in the end, 4,300 workers in Cabarrus and Rowan counties lost their jobs.
It's really devastating, you know, because especially for the people who have put even 5 or 10 years, but for all of us who have been with the company for, 25, 27, 30 years, it's very emotional.
And we talked to Susan there in 2003. At one time, the buildings in Kannapolis were part of the largest textile plant in the world. It opened as Cannon Mills in 1906, employed 30,000 people at one time, and helped make the southern Piedmont the textile capital of the world. In 1985, Cannon Mills merged with Fieldcrest. Then in 1997, Pillowtex bought Fieldcrest Cannon, but kept the name. You remember seeing this about 3 years ago. The actual factory started going away, starting with Plant 1. Then those famous Fieldcrest Cannon smokestacks came down in August of 2006. And finally, a water tower there on the site as well was destroyed, making it the last remnant of the mill to go away. You see it falling there, a sad sight for a lot of people. Well, Wcnc Sonia Gant is here with me now to give us some perspective. Sonia, you grew up in the area and obviously know the importance of textiles and of Pillowtex. So do you remember the day this happened, and kind of put this in context for us?
I think, like a lot of people in the Kannapolis area, it was just hard to believe. You grow up here, you know that the plant is always there. Cannon Village, which a lot of people will be very familiar with, where you could go and buy the products. Sure. Beautiful street up there of stores. And I think the other thing that it signaled for me was how there's going to be a difference in the amount of time. You heard the woman that we spoke with talk about working somewhere 25, 30 years. That's probably not something most people can imagine today. Sure. And the other thing was, they had these sales as soon as they were going out of business. And I went up to the sale just like a lot of other people. It was packed in there, and you would meet people who said, I worked here with my mother, with my grandmother, my aunts and my uncles work here. And most of us today don't think about working anywhere that long or working with our entire family. So it was that community, and I just remember thinking, this is a really sad day.
It certainly was. Well, thank you for the insight there. And more on this now. Wcnc reporter Mark Boone covered Pillowtex's closing, and he's also been covering the transformation in Kannapolis since then. Now, Mark, how have things changed in 5 years, and where do you think things are headed now?
Yeah, Bobby, I tell you, downtown Kannapolis completely transformed in the last few years. Of course, those smokestacks, you saw them just a minute ago, they're gone. That massive mill is as well replaced by the North Carolina Research Campus. That's what they call it. Now, it is billed kind of as a one-stop shopping campus for companies and educators who are involved in biotech research, far different than textiles. And its backers have said the place could employ more than 5,000 people in just the next 5 years. That's more than Plant 1 there in Kannapolis employed. The average salary, according to a 2006 study there, more than $60,000 a year, a lot more money than most of those Pillowtex workers were paid. Of course, the obvious question, how many of those former mill workers will actually be hired on that biotech campus? I've talked to a lot of leaders there in Kannapolis, as well as folks at Rowan Cabarrus Community College. They acknowledge that a lot of those mill workers have been retrained, but most of them obviously will not be qualified for the highest paying jobs on that biotech campus, Bobby.
Okay, Mark, still some stories to come out of this. We know you'll keep us covered on that. Thank you for the insight. One more footnote here today about how hard the textile industry has been hit. A study out today says North Carolina has lost nearly 80,000 jobs to China since 2001. More than 1 in 8 of those jobs was in apparel. A manufacturing group says that a trade agreement between the United States and China in 2001 has devastated the economy. It also says new jobs don't pay as well as the ones we've lost.